Thank you for taking the time to join us today as we celebrate our Chesterfield County senior volunteers. My name is Rachel Ramirez, and I am the co-chair of the Chesterfield County Senior Volunteer Hall of Fame Committee with Susan Revere. I've also been the executive director of the Lifelong Learning Institute since 2014. It is my honor to welcome you to the Senior Volunteer Hall of Fame ceremony and celebration today. We would like to take a moment to recognize members of the Board of Supervisors who have been able to join us today. And I will do that. When I call your name, please go ahead and wave if your camera is on. First, I'd like to thank Kevin Carroll. We can imagine he is waving. Next, I would like to thank the Honorable Leslie Haley. Next, I would like to welcome the Honorable Jim Holland. Next, I would like to welcome the Honorable Jim Engel. And next, I would like to, doesn't look like Chris Winslow is able to join us yet, but we do appreciate Chris's support from the Clover Hill District. We would like to welcome our nominees and nominators as well. And especially the family and friends and honored guests, as well as everyone from our community who have joined us today. Thank you all for prioritizing this important event. As we launch into our program today, please find yourself a comfortable seat anywhere you like and prepare to smile a lot. As you can see here, the program today will include an invocation, the national anthem, some opening remarks, our keynote speaker, recognition of nominees, induction of the 2020 members to the Senior Volunteer Hall of Fame, some closing remarks, followed by celebration rooms, and stay tuned for that, as well as the conclusion. We're in for a treat today. And I would now like to introduce Joe Gallagher. And he is a volunteer chaplain for the Veterans Affairs Hospital. And he's also a member of our Senior Volunteer Hall of Fame Committee. Joe?
Let us pray. Gracious Lord, in whom we live and move and have our being, we come before you today with grateful hearts. We give you thanks for this beautiful day, for the celebration of your servants who have been your vessels in giving of their time, talent, and hearts to serve others. We give you thanks for the individuals who planned and worked to bring this celebration to its fruition today through what is an extraordinary time in our lives, even while forced by an earthly evil to not be together. They found a way to do it. So via the technology, knowledge, and gifts that you gave to the minds of some to create these platforms like Zoom that we are using today. We trust and place our trust in you, O Lord. We look to you for your healing spirit to fall upon this broken world of today, and we beseech thee to lead us through this time. We ask that you bless this event today and all 7 of our nominees, Janet, Howard, Tom, Shirley, Kay, Karen, and Cheryl. May these 7 souls be the example in our lives of what we should be as your vessels in this world, showing all that service, not self, is truly spreading your love. May the inductees today into the Chesterfield Council on Aging Volunteer Hall of Fame, by their unending efforts in serving others, be seen throughout our area as what it is to give of oneself for the benefit of another. We give you thanks, Lord, for those who nominated these 7 heroes in our midst today and for the time they gave to ensure they were considered and recognized for their unending efforts and huge hearts. Bless this day, Lord. Bless this event and all who are joining us today to acknowledge your love being seen in a most tangible way right here today in our presence. May what we experience today be taken with us into this world about us. And may the spirit of love, hope, and determination guide us through all hate and evil that abounds about us. And may we be seen as your hope and love in our world. All this we ask in your most holy name, the God who created us and sustains us with each breath we take. Amen.
Thank you, Joe. We will now listen to the national anthem as sung by the U.S. Army Chorus. I know we're all grateful that they shared their musical talent in service to our country. I would now like to introduce Dr. Joe Casey. Dr. Joseph Casey has been the Chesterfield County Administrator since July 2016. Dr. Casey holds a bachelor's degree in accounting from the University of Richmond, a master's degree in public administration, and a doctorate in public policy and public administration from Virginia Commonwealth University. He's a certified public accountant who started his career with KPMG accounting firm. Dr. Casey also participates in many community projects and mission-based work through his church. He and his wife, Suzanne, have 3 children.
Well, thank you, Rachel. One, thank you for the invocation, and thank you for the national anthem. For those that don't know, even during the county board's virtual meetings, we have started our meetings out that way as well. And it reminds us that no matter where we are and how we communicate with one another, that there's some things that should not just be left to being in person. And an invocation, national anthem, Pledge of Allegiance, again, just reminds us who we are and who we should be in this day and age. So again, thank you for setting that up, Rachel. And one, welcome everybody. While we would all love to be together, we also have to respect the fact that we want to keep everyone as safe as possible. And, you know, again, the older adults by default are the most vulnerable age in Chesterfield County. That goes without saying. That's nationwide as well, but especially in Chesterfield, we do want to take care of our elders and respect them. So having said that, I know everyone's learning how to be virtual over the last month or two, or how to Zoom. And believe me, I've had to work with my 81-year-old mother on these platforms, and you know, it's tough to tell an 81-year-old lady to turn off your camera or turn your mute button off after a while, especially a nice Italian grandmother. But it is a different way of communicating. Rachel, I miss, you know, last year I think it was, we had a quartet of people singing, and you know, that was just a special day, and then they've all been special. But again, we didn't want to forget it. We needed to host it. Rachel and her Lifelong Learning Institute's even gone virtual themselves. So I applaud them for not closing the door and saying come back at a later date, but continuing that lifelong learning just in a different way. It goes without saying, you know, it takes a few people to make what's happening right now special in planning at least the event today. All of you are being recognized, that's why we're here for, the nominees. But I wanted to recognize two people from the county, Emily Ashley, who's our Director of Citizen Information and Resources, and Debbie Preston, who's the manager in that department over the Office of Aging and Disability Services. And they are such a great one-two punch and combination to be working with you and again, showcasing what's here today. Together, the other parts of the committee, I believe, was Rachel herself, and together, who I think she's going to be part of the recognition ceremony, is Susan Revere. They were the committee co-chairs on this activity. So lots of efforts. We actually even practiced ourselves just a couple of days ago, and it was just as much of anything catching up with one another. And I know I just missed seeing and talking to Rachel as well. The 7 nominees, I'm going to read their names because they should be said often, and then they'll be said again later on, but just to keep them, and every one of them, has done something special to be here. And that is Janet Bishop, Howard Hall, Thomas Hoekstra, Shirley Jozowski, Kay Kirchner, Karen Poole, and Cheryl Williams. Again, what we do as part of this Hall of Fame ceremony, we recognize county residents age 60 and older who've done some outstanding service to their community. Some of those outstanding services are continuing even in this virtual world. I'm amazed, and I think it's so healthy for the disposition of many older adults not to be locked in a cocoon, but to figure out how they can pivot to service. Some were doing volunteer work that was much easier to pivot, such as a feeding program possibly. Others have had to pivot to different things, but we need to have you. We need you to be part of our community, share your stories, share your time and talent. You, I think, also need this as well, because there is, while this is a new normal, I'm not going to say that it's new normal to stay, but it's new normal that we are always going to be engaged somehow, some way. Those nominees themselves, they have combined for a total of over 31,000 recorded hours, and me being an accountant by trade, that was free to the county. So I thank you. If we had to do or replicate any of that stuff, especially during these times, we probably wouldn't be able to do it. We couldn't afford to do it. And we probably couldn't do it as well and nicely and politely as you have. There's various departments that many of you have served in. Police department, our Citizens Emergency Response Team, or Chesterfield, I should say, Emergency Response Team, CERT. The Office of Aging and Disability Services, and then the Office of Elections. So those are just naming a few for which you've actually helped out your local government. It also, the month of May was Older Americans Month. And again, there were always going to be more activities we could have been a part of together. The Board of Supervisors recognizes that month. And actually at their May board meeting, we had an essay contest where children wrote letters of appreciation for an older adult that had influenced them. And this year's a winner who read their speech before the Board of Supervisors virtually was Madeline Quarta from Winterpock Elementary, a 5th grader. And she rightfully wrote about her grandmother who in her community, which I believe was Charles City County, her grandmother's name is Dee Dee, but she worked and lobbied for and fundraised and did everything possible to build a library in her community. And that's just a standing testimonial to Dee Dee, the grandmother. So with that said, Rachel, I turn it back over to you. And again, I wish I could shake everybody's hand, but we're planning some big party somewhere, sometime in Chesterfield County for all those people we have to say thanks to. And probably by the time that day occurs, we might be inviting 350,000 people to it. So it's going to be big. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you for being with us today, Dr. Casey, and sharing those thoughts with us. I'd now like to introduce Debbie Preston. Debbie is the manager of the Chesterfield Office of Aging and Disability Services. Debbie holds a master's degree in gerontology from VCU, an undergraduate degree in social work from Longwood University. She's also a licensed nursing home administrator and has more than 20 years of experience working as an advocate and developing resources for older adults. She brings this wealth of experience as she serves seniors and individuals with disabilities in Chesterfield County.
Good afternoon. I am honored to be part of this joyous occasion to celebrate 7 remarkable nominees, Karen, Tom, Kay, Cheryl, Howard, Janet, and Shirley, whose collective volunteer hours have totaled 31,307 since reaching the age of 60. That's amazing. Historically, our ceremony would take place in May in honor of Older Americans Month, a time in which we give honor and raise awareness on the special contributions that older adults provide to their communities and to others. It is also a time to pause, stop, and reflect on the many rewards that accompany aging. With age comes power, power to change our life views and surroundings. With age comes wisdom, wisdom to know that one person can make a difference. With age comes hope, hope for a better tomorrow. And with age comes the realization that as you grow older, you will discover that you have two hands, one for helping yourself and the other for helping others, as quoted by the late, great Audrey Hepburn. As volunteers, you certainly have made your mark as a valuable resource to your community and to the people and organizations that you serve. Your volunteer efforts have created a legacy for others to emulate. Your individual actions and deeds have positively transformed the lives of others and helped to shape the landscape for future generations. Thank you for sharing your time and talent. I commend you for your generosity and compassionate spirit. You have certainly made an indelible mark and impression in the hearts of the others that you serve. In closing, I would like to leave you with the words of George Bernard Shaw. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live in it, it's my privilege to do for it whatever I can. For the harder I work, the more I live. Life is no brief candle to me. It's a sort of splendid torch, which I've got to hold up for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. Chesterfield County shines brighter because of each one of you. We thank you for your kindness, dedication, and your volunteer contributions. And I would like to send a special thank you to Linda Yarborough. Many of you know Linda. She is the program assistant for Chesterfield County Office of Aging and Disability Services. She too has worked diligently behind the scenes to ensure that this program is the success it is today and years past. So thank you, Linda. I would now like to introduce our keynote speaker. Dr. Tracy Gendron is the chair and associate professor of gerontology at Virginia Commonwealth University. Tracy takes an all-inclusive approach to teaching about aging, particularly highlighting those understudied and underrepresented groups that are at increased risk of negative health outcomes based on discrimination. Her personal and professional goal is to raise awareness on how deeply embedded ageism is within all cultures and settings. Please welcome Dr. Tracy Gendron.
Thank you, Debbie. Much appreciated. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Excellent. Well, I thank you so much for having me here today for this wonderful celebration. It is pretty incredible to see what 109 or 108 faces that are here today to share in this celebration. And I think that what Debbie said and what some of the other speakers have said, that with age comes power, comes strength, comes wisdom, clearly also comes resilience and comes ways that we can create new communities together. And it is amazing to me to see how everybody has stepped up to the challenge of our new reality and has found ways for us to come together that we can enjoy being together, even if it is in a virtual setting. So again, my name is Tracy Gendron. I am with the VCU Department of Gerontology. I'm delighted to be here to celebrate all of your accomplishments and to recognize those that are nominated and being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I personally live in Chesterfield, as well as my parents that live in Chesterfield. So this is particularly near and dear to my heart, as this is the community that I have raised my children and that I have spent my years with you. Let me make sure I can share my. There we go. Can you all see my presentation? Excellent.
No, it's actually just your desktop.
Huh.
It's a pretty blue background though. There it is.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so when I was asked to give a quick keynote, I started to think about what it really means to be a volunteer. And I wanted to share my thoughts by starting with an excerpt of a poem by Alberto Rios that's called When Giving is All We Have. Our river gives its journey to the next. We give because someone gave to us. We give because nobody gave to us. We give because giving has changed us. We give because giving could have changed us. You gave me blue and I gave you yellow. Together we are simple green. You gave me what you did not have, and I gave you what I had to give. Together we made something greater from the difference. So in thinking about my remarks, I noticed that several words started to come to mind. And these words that came to mind, words like generous, interestingly, all started from this prefix gen or gene. So I looked a little bit into that to say, well, what does that mean? Well, the definition of the root word gen is something that produces, induces, or stimulates the production of. It refers to things like familial and tribal groups. If we think of words like genetics or genealogy or gender, all of these words refer to a sense of belonging to something. Generous means showing a readiness to give more of something than is expected. It's showing kindness towards others. It's showing something that is abundant or ample. Perfectly fitting, I thought, for a description of all of you. Volunteers who focus on reaching out to others with open hearts and open hands. People who are generous with their time and their resources and their love. Volunteers say both through their words and through their actions, you matter to me, you are worthy, and you belong. The next word that came to mind for me is generativity. While generous is a good way to describe volunteers, generativity, I think, captures the uniqueness and the spirit of many older volunteers. Generativity is about making your mark on the world. It's about caring for others, accomplishing things that make the world a better place. The term generativity was coined by a psychologist, Erik Erikson, and he used it to describe the developmental tasks of middle to older adulthood. Erikson believed that during this stage of life, we have a need to create and to nurture things that will outlast us. The desire to give back to society helps us develop a sense of being a part of a bigger picture, being a part of something where we're building a legacy that we leave behind. I think generativity sets the stage for elderhood. And elderhood is another life stage that provides meaningful opportunities for personal growth and development through introspection, through legacy creation, and through the giving of ourselves through the time, knowledge, and our wisdom. Generativity is also about a concern for the future, a need to nurture and guide younger people, and a concern for establishing and guiding the next generation. Speaking of which, generation, yet another word that starts with the prefix gen. A generation describes all of the people born and living at about the same time. We regard these groups collectively, meaning that we assume that generations have similar ideas, attitudes, problems, behaviors. The average period of a generation is typically about 30 years, during which time children are born, children grow up, they become adults, and they begin to have children of their own. We have this belief that generations, which is a created concept, are all quite unique and therefore somehow very different from each other. But the thing is, I don't think that generations are as different as we think they are. Generations follow very similar ebbs and flows of life and history. We say things like kids these days, but yet we know that it's normal for adolescents to feel invincible and to sometimes be reckless, no matter what decade they were born into. We say things like one generation is responsible for all that is wrong with the world, yet we know that every generation has countless people that have given their time, their energy, and all of their resources to making the world a better place and for leaving it better for those who follow. George Orwell said, "Each generation imagines itself to be more intelligent than the one that went before it and wiser than the one that comes after it." But the truth is that generations are each extensions of the past and arms to the future. And regardless of the circumstances into which we're born, whether it be an industrial age, an agricultural age, or a technological age, we have the connecting threads of our humanity. And it's those threads of humanity that weave the generations together. Here's the thing. We know that the threads that are bonded together are stronger than a lone string. Just as we know that no matter what our generation is, we have more in common than we do that's different. Which brings me to my next word, generic. Generic is a term that's used to describe an entire group or class. Think of like a generic class of drugs, of medications. The term generic reminds me that as humans, we have lots of things in common. For example, we are all residents of the wonderful planet Earth. We are all human and prone to make mistakes. We all have good days and we all have bad days. We all share 99.9% genetically similar DNA to each other. We all strive for purpose. We all want to belong. Generic illustrates how those threads are bonded together. And that brings me to my last word, Genesis. Genesis refers to the formation of something, the origin, the beginning, or the start. This word came to mind for me because volunteers are often a lifeline for others, the beginning of something that is better and brighter. They provide an anchor during rough waters. They often provide a new start for people that need it the most. Genesis is the place where that all begins. So when you put it all together, you can see that volunteers are the ultimate producers and connectors. Through the gift of generously giving, volunteers embody a spirit of generativity that connects the generations together by role modeling the values and behaviors that bond us together. We'll take that prefix gen and we'll look at all of these words and bring it together in terms of a familial group of things that belong together. That's what volunteers do. They reach out and remind us of the generic traits and commonalities that we all share, such as the need for community, the need to help others, the need to belong. So as amazing volunteers, you all represent the beginning of a path forward for so many people. Today is a celebration and a recognition of your gifts and your talents and the way that you share them with other people. In reading about today's nominees, I just have to say I was moved by the dedication, the passion, and the commitment. You'll all hear much more about all the valuable contributions in just a few moments, and we've heard these beautiful 7 names many times already. The contributions include things like working with law enforcement, motorist assessment, music and arts, healthcare, aging services, and so much more. Thank you so much for all of you do. Thank you for giving me the opportunity today to celebrate with you. In times such as these, where there's so much collective pain, it's important to take these moments to acknowledge and thank those that work to make our communities a wonderful place to live and a wonderful place to age. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. And now, here to get us started in recognizing our county's amazing volunteers is Susan Revere, Executive Director of RAMPS RVA and my co-chair of the Senior Volunteer Hall of Fame Committee, and she has served on the committee since 2013.
Rachel, thank you for the introduction, and thank you to all of our event attendees today. We appreciate you joining us as we celebrate our county's inspiring senior volunteers. Now, I'd like to share with you our 2020 Senior Volunteer Hall of Fame nominees. Every week since 2011, Janet Bishop has quietly and efficiently performed her assigned duties for the Chesterfield County Police Department. She possesses an expansive wealth of organizational and administrative experience. As her nominator shared, Janet is very computer literate and has the ability needed to interpret and synthesize information. Her assistance allows full-time staff members more time to fulfill their duties for the unit. Janet is dependable, efficient, and humble, and she expects nothing in return. Howard Hall was nominated for his dedicated volunteer service rendered through his involvement as an officer and volunteer with the outreach programs of the Central Chesterfield Ruritan Club. He has the unique distinction of 50 straight years of perfect attendance with the Ruritan Club meetings. During these years, he has averaged 1,000 volunteer hours per year in community volunteer work. As his nominator shared, everyone knows Curly Hall. As a member and leader of the Motorist Assistance Team, Tom Hoekstra feels this community service has been his most significant volunteer contribution. He has also volunteered as an officer of elections, assisted in advocacy work for the Swift Creek Reservoir Hydrilla Management Group, the Wood Lake Community Association, and with CERT, Chesterfield's Community Emergency Response Team. Tom was starting a new volunteer data analysis job for the traffic unit of the Chesterfield Police Department when the COVID-19 crisis arose. Shirley Jezierski has provided outstanding service to the community for 30 years as the music director of the Bells and Bows group at St. Edward the Confessor Catholic Church. This group leads weekly sing-alongs at 6 area senior living facilities, in addition to their rehearsals and performances for individuals in hospice, at funerals, and other services. Through her leadership, Shirley has also helped her fellow singers by providing them a meaningful way to help care for the older adults in our community. 2 years ago, Kay Kirshner became a volunteer for the county's Office of Aging and Disability Services. Twice each week, she comes to the office to call socially isolated seniors who are part of the Telephone Reassurance Program. She is extremely dedicated, rarely missing a scheduled day. Kay is a kind, caring volunteer and spends as much time as the seniors may need to talk on any given day. Since the COVID-19 crisis began, she works from her home and has doubled her volunteer schedule, making calls 4 days every week. Karen Poole provides volunteer service to numerous organizations and programs. Her current service includes volunteering at St. Francis Hospital, driving with the American Cancer Society's Road to Recovery program, leading outreach programs for Trinity United Methodist Church, and managing a coat collection and distribution program for families in need. Karen donates her time generously, yet she always seems to find additional ways to help those who are less fortunate. As a receptionist and office assistant at the Lifelong Learning Institute in Chesterfield, Cheryl Williams is dedicated to her Tuesdays in the office and takes quality time with each prospective member and instructor that comes her way. She answers calls, leads tours, and facilitates multiple organizational tasks. Her consistency and sense of calm are most helpful, and she is always happy to share a smile. Cheryl devotes attention to detail and displays an excellent attitude for anything she is asked to do. All of our nominees received a peace lily plant, a balloon, and a card today as a token of our deep appreciation for their service to our community. They will also receive a Senior Volunteer Hall of Fame nominee certificate in the mail to commemorate this great honor. On the count of 3, let's all cheer and celebrate as we give our nominees a round of applause.
Jonathan, where everything was. So.
I would now like to introduce our next speaker. Sarah Sneed serves as Deputy Director for Health and Human Services in Chesterfield County. She received her Master's of Social Work with a concentration in Administration from Virginia Commonwealth University and her BA from Meredith College. She has served in the roles of Deputy County Administrator for Human Services, Director of Chesterfield Colonial Heights Department of Social Services, and currently serves as the liaison for Lucy Corps Continuing Care Retirement Community, the county's Victim Witness Program, the courts, and the Chesterfield Health District. We are deeply honored to have had Sarah's support for so many years and congratulate her on her upcoming retirement. Sarah?
Good afternoon, everyone. It is indeed my honor to be here with you, and this is such an exciting time to see so many of you. I want to thank you for the opportunity to join you to celebrate Chesterfield senior volunteers during our annual Senior Volunteer Hall of Fame ceremony. Again, I am so happy to be with you today. Even in this new format, it is such an exciting time. Last Wednesday evening, our Chesterfield Board of Supervisors recognized these 7 inspiring nominees during their monthly meeting, recapping and giving insight into their volunteer service since turning 60. The dedication of our volunteers is so appreciated, and all of us can certainly see firsthand the positive impact of these volunteers in our county. It was a pleasure for me and everyone else to hear their stories as they were shared with the board and all virtual meeting attendees. In a time when so much of our daily life looks different than it did at this time last year, it is important to take a moment and reflect on something positive. And that is why we are all here today, to celebrate those who turn their leisure time into volunteer time, who are determined and passionate about improving lives regardless of the cost. I am personally passionate about volunteerism, and I believe in the tremendous difference that it makes. I am amazed and inspired by each of our volunteers. Just as others have said, reading and hearing about each of these volunteers motivates me. And I recognize that my own life and my own career have been improved through the efforts of individuals such as these persons that we're celebrating today. In my years with Chesterfield County, I've attended this remarkable event as many times as my schedule would permit. It is indeed one of my very favorite events. The sharing of time and talent here in our county and beyond is so deeply appreciated. Our county is a better place to live, work, and volunteer with the support of each of these individuals. As the president of Independent Sector, an organization that tracks the impacts of volunteers shared, we know, quote, that giving of our time, talent, and effort transforms organizations, communities, and our nation, and also has profound effects on the individuals giving of their time. I know our volunteers transform communities, and I am grateful to be a part of a county that recognizes the importance and the impact of volunteerism through an event like the one today. Chesterfield will continue to support and recognize their senior volunteers. Individuals like today's nominees who may prefer to avoid the spotlight and instead had wished that we had put focus on organizations they serve need to know that they truly make a difference. Their hearts and hands improve lives, and for that, we recognize them today. Thank you for all that you've accomplished and for all that you continue to do. And I want to congratulate personally and on behalf of so many others, each of our nominees and each of our inductees. Thank you so very much.
Sarah, thank you so much for the inspiring and kind words. And it is now the moment you've all been waiting for. I would now like to introduce the 3 inductees to the 2020 Chesterfield County Senior Volunteer Hall of Fame. Nominated by Bruce Kozlowski, our first inductee is Tom Hoekstra. In addition to volunteer service already shared, Tom served as a manager of landscaping teams and projects at St. Gabriel Catholic Church. He has been an enthusiastic volunteer in all his community activities. As a Chesterfield County resident of 20 years, Tom has volunteered 8,100 hours since the age of 60. Prior to his retirement, he was an engineer with the Apollo Space Program and Bell Labs Telecommunications. Our second inductee was nominated by Sharon Charles. Karen Poole is a retired teacher and school administrator in Chesterfield County, where she has resided for 47 years. In addition to other service activities, she has also volunteered for Trinity United Methodist Church, Camp Baker, and the Thomasdale High School Prom Closet. Karen has volunteered a total of 6,633 hours since the age of 60. With the recent onset of the COVID-19 crisis, she still found time to make and donate over 350 masks. Our third inductee today was nominated by Richard Patch. For decades, Shirley Jezierski's leadership of the Bells and Bows Choral Group has brought sunshine to the lives of many in our community. Her work has benefited residents of senior living facilities, families in time of need, and the singers themselves. Shirley handles song selection, coordinates activities, rehearsals, and communications. A resident of Chesterfield County for 50 years, Shirley has volunteered 2,088 hours since the age of 60. All of our inductees will receive a special Senior Volunteer Hall of Fame pin, in addition to a resolution from the Board of Supervisors. Congratulations to our 2020 inductees, and thank you to all our nominees and nominators. We look forward to celebrating with each and every one of you in person in 2021. For now, though, on the count of 3, let's give our inductees a round of applause.
Easy, easy.
1, 2, 3. And now we turn to our closing remarks with Dr. Ann Welliford. Dr. Welliford serves as Associate Professor and Gerontologist for Community Voice in VCU's Department of Gerontology, where she formerly served as Chair. Dr. Welliford?
Susan, thank you so much for that introduction, and I'm so grateful to be included in this event again. You know that I'm forever horning in to make sure that I always get an invitation, because this is truly one of my favorite events of the year. I'm sorry I forgot to bring my tissues, and I'm at home and I should have tissues, so I apologize. In closing today, I want to share a favorite quote of mine that seems to be a mashup between the Dalai Lama and David Orr. I've seen it attributed to both of these individuals, but I think it's very fitting. to share today in regards to these awardees and fantastic volunteers. And the quote goes like this: "The planet doesn't need more successful people, but it desperately needs, what we desperately need is more peacemakers, peacemakers, healers, restorers, storytellers, and lovers of every shape and form. It needs people who live well in their places. It needs people of moral courage, willing to join the fight to make the world habitable and humane. And these needs have little to do with success as our culture defines it. These are the roles of elders. These are the roles that Bill Thomas describes that only elders can hold, that only elders are qualified and equipped for. The roles of wisdom giver, the roles of legacy creator, and the roles of peacemaker. Our world needs elders more than ever. I'm grateful to you for the things that you are willing to share with our community, with for your presence and your bravery. And I am grateful that you're willing to share your talents as wisdom givers, as legacy creators, as peacemakers, all described here as the role of elders, as you do your work on a daily basis, disguised as volunteers. Thank you again for letting me join.
Thank you, Dr. Williford, and to all of our speakers today for embracing this online format. Thank you to all of our nominees and our nominators for embarking on a new way to get together and recognize your amazing contributions to our Chesterfield County community. Thank you to our community leaders, our families and friends who have joined us today as we have celebrated our wonderful senior volunteers. On behalf of Susan and myself and the rest of the committee, we'd like to recognize several individuals who have made this event possible today. Our committee members, Mary Ann Bailey, Brooke Brockdorf, Joe and Judy Gallagher, Mary Jones, Debbie Preston, Susan Revere, Robin Southall, Danny Washington, Dr. Ann Williford, and Linda Yarbrough. Our selection panel this year rose to the challenge and met virtually for the inductee selection process. We are grateful for your time. Eve Flippen, Beth Jorgensen, Steve Kunman, Lori Magnuson, and Rita McCullough. We appreciate all the support we receive from the Chesterfield County Board of Supervisors, the Chesterfield Council on Aging, the Chesterfield Department of Communications and Media, the Chesterfield County Office of Aging and Disability Services, and all the nominating citizens and organizations. This year's Peace Lily plants were provided by the Petals and Bows Florist in Chester. This year's donations were provided by Oasis Senior Advisors and St. Matthias's Episcopal Church. Thank you all. Once again, thank you for joining us today to recognize these amazing volunteers who truly make our Chesterfield County community and the world a better place.